This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, sitting there. It's doing the welcome. Let me move this.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist.
Wait a minute, your mic's not on.
Hello?
John, can you please turn on the mic?
Okay. Good morning. Okay,
Yay.
great. Yeah, good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lynchburg. We are glad you are here. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, whatever your age, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. As we work together for justice, compassion, and peace, we also acknowledge with humility that our buildings sit on Monacan land. My name is Matt Canning. I'm the newly appointed secretary to the board. If you're with us for the first time, we're glad you chose to be here this morning to participate in the service for this congregation we love. If you would like to receive our monthly newsletter and Friday email updates, please fill out the virtual visitor card found in our website, uulynchburg.org, under Sunday services, or fill out the yellow card found in the back of the chair in front of you and place it in the offering basket during the offering. Today, following the sermon, we will have some time to share our thoughts about the first two sources of Unitarian Universalism. So, as the service progresses, you might want to consider how you relate to our first two sources. Do they speak to you? Do they help motivate your spiritual and ethical thinking? Please take note of the announcements in the bulletin, and if you are on Zoom, you can find them in the Friday e-news. Our young people will be on a field trip next week and have a project the week after, so they will not be in the sanctuary the next 2 Sundays. Now, I invite us to release our worries about the world and our own lives as we enter the service by taking some slow, calming breaths.
May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life. Well, this is one of those services when I picked out a hymn that we don't know very well because it's got great words. It speaks to the diverse sources of our Unitarian Universalist faith. While most of us, or many of us, might not use the word God because of the baggage that word holds for us, there are rich thoughts in this hymn about how we individually address that which is greater than us. So we sing this today with the understanding that we put our own meaning into words that articulate our personal beliefs. So let us join in singing 343, and please rise in body or spirit. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, and be seated. I'd like our young person and those young at heart, Cameron or Emma or Ren, y'all may feel young at heart this morning. I invite you to come join me because we've got some fun things this morning. So I'm going to ask all of you, have you ever made trail mix? Have you made trail mix? Like if you're going on a hike or something? Maybe not. Are there others of you who have made trail mix? Yes, a lot of people. Well, I think it's really yummy. I like how there are lots of different delicious tastes that are even better when you mix them together, and then you get to take a big bite of lots of different things. Well, our Unitarian Universalist faith reminds me of trail mix. Now that sounds silly, but those of us sitting here have differing beliefs. But when we come together to taste diverse ways of thinking and enjoy learning, we can find out about all 6 sources of Unitarian Universalism. So let's think about what we might put in our trail mix and what source each of these ingredients might represent. I stayed up late thinking about some of this. I didn't have anything more serious to think about.
How late did you sleep?
I stayed up like past midnight. Whoa, actually I do that every night, but our first source says that we find richness in the transcending mystery and wonder of the world. And those are big words, but imagine, have you discovered anything amazing this summer? Maybe out in nature, or you could have just learned something interesting at school or at home. That's pretty wonderful. Have you found any interesting insects? I was over at Bob and Joanne Morris's the other day and saw a very interesting insect with sort of stripes on it that I'd never seen before. I thought it was really cool. Have you found any of those this summer?
I found a little beetle in my driveway that had white stripes, and it can jump.
Whoa, a jumping insect. Lots of people are scared of those. Well, I find things like that really fun and exciting. And I remember one interesting thing is the first time I ate craisins. I thought it was just a plain old raisin, and it was interesting and tart. So I thought we could start building our trail mix.
This is a raisin.
Ooh, taste one. You want to taste one? Taste one. It doesn't taste like a raisin, does it? Yeah. So it's more interesting. So can you dump that in the bowl? Yay. Okay. So we're starting to build our trail mix by adding craisins to remind us of the wonder and mystery and all these unique things out there in the world that we can discover every day. Our next source is that we learn from prophetic people who are good people who pass on their wisdom to us and to others. Is there somebody you think about as a hero? Somebody who teaches you important lessons? I know 2 people. You want me to tell you about them?
Yeah.
They're going to be with you in class today. Bob and Makana Morris. They're pretty prophetic people in our faith tradition. And there are also other people, like you may have heard about Dr. King. Dr. King taught us about equality and that all people, no matter who they are, how they look, what they do, they're special. So I would like for you to put the M&Ms in there because they're pretty diverse. And that'll help us remember all those people who teach us about different people and how to be just and loving. We also learn about other religions from around the world. These are people who think differently, dress differently, their cultures are different, but they have a lot of wisdom to teach us. And all of those differences are woven into one human family. So each religion brings to us and to the human family their own teachings. So I thought it would be really interesting to put rice checks in, because look, those little things look like a weaving, don't they?
Yum.
So that's, you want to taste that one? Okay.
All right, you want to pour it in?
So that's reminding us of all the beauty woven in from all the world's religious traditions. So our Judeo-Christian heritage is the first source that sort of led to Unitarian Universalism so many years ago.
When are these going to get pardoned?
They're going to come in soon. But our Judeo-Christian tradition, the Hebrew prophets and the prophet Jesus talk about loving one another and compassion. So we have coconut. You want to get the coconut?
Is this
That's it.
Yeah, and think about a coconut. It's got a really hard, it does sort of look like
Does
cheese.
it taste like cheese?
No, it tastes very sweet. So coconuts have a very hard outer shell that help them stay together. But when you get on the inside, it's very sweet, sort of like we need to hold sweetness and kindness in our hearts. So that'll remind us of that source. Our next source is the wisdom of humanism, which honors the gifts of science and the mind. And we're adding cashews to our mix to remind us of the insights we gain from science and the explorations of the mind. And I picked cashews because you know how they grow? There's this fruit, this sort of big fruit, and then at the very bottom of it is one little cashew. Very interesting, I think. So our sixth source is the wisdom of earth-centered traditions that honor the circle of life. So of course, we needed Cheerios to represent the circle of life.
Here's a heart.
You see a heart-shaped one?
Oh,
Maybe.
that's even more special. It is a heart one, so you can eat that one if you want to. Okay. So those circles remind us that we're part of the circle of life. So I'm wondering if you can gently, trying to keep everything in the bowl, stir it. Because they look really separate now, but in our faith, we can learn about and weave into our personal beliefs all the different sources of our faith. Can I give it a turn two? Because we need some peanuts on top. Definitely peanuts on top. So, you know what's happening in just a minute? You're going to go to your class and you get to take, or maybe your mom will take the bowl of trail mix and you get to try some during class, and then so the adults won't miss out. When class is over, you can bring it down and we can have trail mix too.
I'm ready to all before.
You are.
Uh-oh.
Whole big bowl.
Uh-oh, somebody's going to need to monitor you. I don't know.
And
I'm
then
not
the
sure.
other kids will come along and help.
You think some other kids will come? Maybe.
Okay. They may already be upstairs. So we thank you, Nora, for helping make this trail mix for us. And now let's sing Nora to her class.
Why are we going to have that?
For you, to the kids.
Keepers of lovely. Keepers of lovely. I love playing. So Lynn Cox wrote Words as part of a service based on The Wizard of Oz. It's a reminder, perhaps to encourage us on our own path for truth. Come, you accidental pilgrims, you who find yourself on a journey of surprise and wonder. Come, you who emerge into this place as an act of liberation. Come, you who seek a life of mindfulness and a place to test your thoughts. Come, you who bring hearts of all kinds, heavy hearts, rusty hearts, hearts broken open in revelation, hearts full of love to share. Come, you who seek courage, and you who have more courage than you realize. Come, you who stand behind the curtain, gathering up the resources to claim your truth. Come, you who have been in a bubble, you who are poised for transformation. We begin our story now, gathering courage, love, mindfulness, and a sense of purpose. We gather as people of all ages, of all abilities, different backgrounds, and different perspectives. We share a covenant, a direction for our shared journey, and a commitment to encourage and challenge one another to spiritual growth. This path will ask much from us. Let us move forward with love. Let us move forward with appreciation for one another. Let us move forward knowing we are not alone. Whoever you are, whatever your gifts, you are welcome to join this journey. Today, we take an offering of our gifts for the work of our congregation, the monetary support of members and friends, along with our monetary gifts, make our congregation possible. If you found this congregation to be of value in your life, then I invite you to give generously. And if you're on Zoom, you may make a donation through PayPal or mail a check. It is the tradition in our community to share life, and
This meeting is
we
being
hold
recorded.
up today the joy and wonder and mystery that is part of our lives. We are so aware of the struggles that we sometimes have individually, in our families, in our nation, and in our world. May we find ways to bring healing and hope into our hearts and into the world. We give thanks for the joy of being part of Unitarian Universalism and finding ways to connect with sisters and brothers in other congregations and in other countries. We hold up today all those who are suffering in mind, body, and spirit. Those who lack adequate food, clothing, housing. Those who are suffering from damage related to storms and fires and drought. May we find ways to be a support, a compassionate, loving presence to those who are in need. And we humbly ask for wisdom in finding the work that is ours to do, to bring about more justice, more hope, more peace, more love. This we ask in the name of all that is sacred. Amen. Today, we begin an exploration of our Unitarian Universalist sources. And this is one thing that may be edited out of our Unitarian Universalist Article 2 if the proposed changes are made. The rich inclusion of thought and spirituality in the sources is one thing that drew me to Unitarian Universalism. We're going to consider the sources for the next 3 weeks, looking at 2 sources each Sunday, and we'll have time at the end of the service to share our thoughts about the sources. Though we find the sources in our hymnal and on the website, they're also in your bulletin this Sunday. So let's take a look at them. Whenever I read the sources, I find myself considering how each source does or maybe doesn't inform my personal beliefs in ethics. At this point, I'm sort of like one of those pieces of rice checks. I sort of weave pieces of all the sources into my beliefs. So first, the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Words and deeds of prophetic people which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Spiritual teachings of earth-centered religions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Courtney and I enjoyed creating this trail mix image of how we mix together in different ways, depending on who we are, our varied sources of belief. And while simplistic, our trail mix is an image for how we as Unitarian Universalists create a complex faith which is broadly inclusive of religious thought. So today we're looking at our first two sources: direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. And words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. When I think about our direct experience with mystery and wonder, I sometimes think about a baby who is beginning to find everything in life, and everything is a wonder and a delight. I think we all need to maintain that spirit of a child who is deeply engaged with life. As we grow, I think it's too easy to become jaded and forget the wonder and mystery that's all around us. I choose how to engage with life. And this particular source reminds me of that wonderful Einstein quote that we know: there are only two ways to live in life. One as if nothing is a miracle, the other as if everything is a miracle. One of the greatest gifts of Unitarian Universalism for me is that we believe that revelation is not sealed. This means that the sacred can be revealed anywhere and by any being. How many of us have sat beneath a tree or stood overlooking a valley, maybe really close to here, and felt our hearts moved by the glorious nature of the world and her creatures? I remember taking a botany class. It was the only thing that was open, but I was in college and I was like, I've got to take botany. But I was so in awe looking under a microscope and seeing the cellular structure and how the patterns in different plants repeated themselves. I was just awestruck. I'm more and more reminded that we humans have collectively lost our connection to the wonders of the world. My teacher once said that the most destructive mistranslation in the Judeo-Christian tradition, and I'm sure I've told you this before, but I think it bears repeating. The most destructive mistranslation was that man had dominion over creation rather than with creation. The translators put the wrong preposition in there. Humanity, with that mistranslation, has removed ourselves from the deep and abiding relationship we need to have with nature, because we are part of nature. It's difficult to see the sacred nature of creation when one is trying to dominate and subdue. This source is tied to our seventh principle, that we are part of the interconnected web of life. Our first source of faith affirms our engagement with the transcending mystery and wonder we find through our individual direct experiences with life and all the forces that create and uphold life. In a similar openness to the wisdom found across the breadth of life, our second source affirms that we draw our faith in part from the words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. I return to our belief that revelation is not sealed. We are not merely people of the book like the Abrahamic religions. We are people of the library, drawing from both ancient texts and current wisdom bearers who show us how to live by modeling ways that we can work for justice and embody love in the world, in society, and in our personal lives. I think each of us can think of people who became our mentors because we looked at how they lived their lives. We see them living out integrity, commitment, and a vision of the kind of life we wish to live. And if we look back at our history, we find Unitarians in all walks of life who made a difference. From people like Benjamin Rush, who was a signer of the Declaration of Independence. He's considered the father of modern psychiatry, and he worked back in his day to improve the care of people with mental illness. We all know of Dorothea Dix, whose work with nurses during the Civil War helped lead to the American Sanitary Commission, the precursor of the American Red Cross. And she was both loved and reviled for offering equal care and treatment to wounded soldiers for both the Union and the Confederacy. We remember transcendentalists such as Emerson and Thoreau, and more recently, Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web. He became a Unitarian, like some of us, when he had children and wanted them to be raised in a broad and inclusive faith. His discovery has certainly changed life as we know it. Each of us has our own prophets. Perhaps Martin Luther King, Gandhi, personal mentors who have helped us on our paths to find truth and an understanding of who we want to be in the world. We believe that everything and everyone with whom we engage with can be a profound teacher when we open our minds and hearts. These two sources remind me of the lyrics of Peter Mayer's song, "Everything is Holy Now." And I go back to this song over and over because it holds so much wisdom. His lyrics go, "When I was a boy, each week on Sunday, we would go to church and pay attention to the priest." He obviously wasn't Unitarian Universalist. "He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today, the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two. Jesus made the water wine, and I remember feeling sad that miracles don't happen still. But now I can't keep track because everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle." Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. That would be very hard to say. see another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning, I stood outside and saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent air because everything's holy now. So I'm curious what you find holy now. How did these two sources of our faith speak to you? We sit side by side and talk to each other on Sunday morning, but don't often talk together about what inspires us and feeds us as we live each day. Any thoughts? I was going to bring a mic to you, but this one's not working. So,
Terry,
yes.
this is Dick Bain.
Hi, Dick.
I have a question.
Sure.
This is sort of basic. Why do they want to eliminate these two? What is the criteria, and how are they going to do it if they do it?
I'm sorry. What did you say? Did you say polluting?
No, I said,
Oh, what are they going to eliminate? Okay.
why? No, why are they going to eliminate it, and how are they going to do that?
Okay, so in the committee that worked on Second Amendment edits, one of the things they wanted to move away from was the principles and the sources and replace those with a list of values and explanation of values. But right now we've got the sources. So we can talk more about the Article 2, because I don't know how Bob feels about it, but Makana and I have real strong feelings about it. So we'll be happy to share those with you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Is this working now? Nope, I don't think it's working. But any thoughts about these two? Are these sources that you particularly resonate with? Molly, can you come up here, because folks on Zoom can't hear and we want to be respectful.
Terry, I find them both to be a little wordy and a little too directive in today's words, today's world. Words and deeds of prophetic people which challenge us. Sometimes it isn't that I'm challenged, but I'm inspired. And I think the difference between being challenged to go out and do something and be inspired to be in a certain way is different, and both are valid. So I think it leaves out the one. And for me, when I am appreciative of the tiny, small speck that we all are and that I am, it doesn't necessarily renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold like that isn't quite what it does for me. It resets perhaps how important I really am, or it resets that I am a part of the whole, an equal part of the whole, and that is awesome too. So I find them not quite as useful as if they were written slightly differently.
And I think one of the challenges about any document like this is wordsmithing among Unitarian Universalists is a monumental challenge. But if the words, clearly you've thought through and say, okay, if it were, oh, thank you. Thank you. I wasn't planning to get choked in the service. But I think what's important is that we can take the wording and say, this would be more meaningful to me because I take this and I'm inspired more than challenged. And yet, knowing all the amazing things that you have done in this community, I think you as a role model for many of us have both challenged and inspired. So how to adapt the wording in such a way that it includes everyone's translation, particular translation. But it sounds like you also connect with both of those sources and translate them in a way that's meaningful to you. Okay. Any other thoughts about one or both of these? So we're happy with them with a little wordsmithing. Okay. Well, I think that one of the things I'm hoping that we'll do over the next 3 weeks is realize I'm not only this, I'm a theist, and yet I find wisdom in humanism. I certainly find wisdom in earth-centered traditions. I find wisdom in each of these sources. I'm not just one monolithic believer. So I'm hoping we'll all explore these sources more deeply. And at this time, I invite us to rise in body or spirit to share hymn 123, Spirit of Life, and we'll sing it twice. Stirrings of compassion. Thank you, and be seated. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our benediction is from our forebear, Hosea Ballou, who wrote, "If we agree in love, there is no disagreement that can do us any injury. But if we do not, no other agreement can do us any good. Let us endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bonds of peace." Amen. Perfect benediction. Blessed be, go in peace.